Ooh, that's nice. How you doing, everyone? Welcome back to another video. I'm Okidoki, and this is the Idobao ID80 Plus. Let's talk about it. The ID80 Plus is a mechanical keyboard with a 75% layout, anodized aluminum case, and acrylic bottom. Now, Idobao has come out with two other types of keyboards. They have the ID80 version 1 and the ID80 version 2. ID80 Plus is kind of a mishmash between the two. It has the same case layout as the version 2, but the version 1 PCB. The stark difference between the ID80 Plus and the ID80 version 2 is the version 2 has a brass weight right here in the back versus the entire acrylic bottom that the ID80 Plus has. Now, the switches that we're going to be using for this particular build are the Kiwi switches from the Key Dot Company and C3 Eagles. Now, the Kiwis are a 67 gram tactile switch with an outer green housing. Now, the housing material itself is made out of UHM WPE with a N9 gray stem, and it has gold-plated internals. Now, come along and join me as we put this together.
Going for Desky's switch films this time, with our Krytox 205 grade 0. The key switches themselves come with this nice little packaging with a sticker on top. Each bag contains 25 switches. But let's find out how a tactile switch works. The legs of the key switch stem will make contact with the gold leaf here as the key switch is actuated, creating that tactile bump. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth showing the entire lubing process for all these switches, but I did want to highlight that for tactile switches, you want to lube everything except the legs of the stem. That includes the slider rails as well as the front and back, but being very careful to not touch the legs. Alright, now let's get into unboxing this thing. Get your standard packet of goodies. Rubber bump-ons for the bottom of the board. Spare Kale hot swap sockets. Extra screws. And a pretty decent quality USB-C cable. The rest of the unboxing is rather bland, as it just contains the board kit itself. The case is held together with 6 screws, and notice the entire acrylic bottom. This part right here is where the brass weight would be on the version 2. All right, let's get these bump-ons on. And these are just held on with standard 3M adhesive. All right, now let's open this baby up. We start by taking off the 6 screws here. Also, don't forget your magnet's part tray. And we have 8 screws attaching the PCB to the plate. And we also get some internal case foam, which I think is a great touch. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and replace the stock clip-in stabs that come with this board with some screw-in stabilizers that I also got from the Key Company. Now we are going to need to prep these a bit, so we got to get some supplies. We have our Krytox 205 grade 0 and Permatex dielectric grease. Just got to apply a little force to get the clip-in stabs out. And they just come right off. Now we're going to need 4 sets of stabilizers for this build. And we'll just throw these old ones out. We're going to go ahead and separate our components. Now the stabilizer kit comes with 4 2U stab wires, 1 6.25U stab wire, and 1 7U stab wire. Now this kit uses a 6.25U stab wire, so we'll set the other one aside. Now for lubing your stabilizers, you want to apply a nice even coat to both sides of the stem, and then to both sides on the inside of the housing. And now it's time to just insert the stem into the housing. Now for the wires, it's slightly more simple. Just slightly squeeze the tube and insert the wire into the opening. After that, it's just a matter of putting your wires inside the housing and snapping them in place. Now we're going to go ahead and apply what's called a Band-Aid mod to our PCB. This essentially will reduce the stabilizer rattle when you press down a switch. Now the stabilizer kit does include some stickers you can use. However, medical tape and I'm pretty sure masking tape will do the trick just fine. And now it's time to screw in all the stabilizers. And now the fun part, putting it all back together. Fully assembled, this thing weighs 1,058 grams or 2.33 pounds. Now for our keycaps, I'm going to use this ABS double shot keycap set that I got off mechanicalkeyboards.com called Dark Knight by Tayao. And now the fun part.
Now I've been using this keyboard for a couple days now, and I gotta say, typing on it has been an absolute experience. The slight tactile bump of the switches is enough to give you feedback that you've actuated a switch without being too over the top. It does take a little bit of getting used to. It is a different feeling from typing on linears, but it's a very enjoyable experience. You can buy them right now on the Key.company website for $16.25 for a pack of 25 switches. Now the ID80 Plus does have a couple issues with the case sounding a bit hollow as you're typing on it, but it could be easily remedied with foam. As a matter of fact, I did put a thin piece of foam in mine, which did solve most of my issues. However, my spacebar still sounds a little hollow. All in all, I gotta say my experience with this keyboard has been mostly positive, hollowness issues aside, and the underglow gives a nice touch. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'd appreciate your feedback down in the comments below. Have a good one.